were prepared to give up on Kokomo and our auto industry. There were those who said it was going to be too difficult, or that it was bad politics, or it was throwing good money after bad. You remember the voices arguing for us to do nothing. They were pretty loud, suggesting we should just step back and watch an entire sector of our economy fall apart. We made the decision to stand with you because we had confidence in the American worker, more than anything. And today we know that was the right decision. We know that was the right decision.
Well, the elections are over, but he's out there on the stump. Welcome back. That was President Obama today in Kokomo, Indiana. There's a new website set up, by the way, by some Obama supporters that brags about his administration's accomplishments. It's called What the, I can't use the word, has Obama done so far? We can see there's a lot to go on. The list of actions taken by the president is extensive. We're joined now by Colorado Democratic Congressman Jared Polis and MSNBC's Richard Wolff, author of the new book, Revival. Congressman, I go through this list, and I'm really impressed by this. Here are some of the big things in the first 2 years of this administration. Economic stimulus plan, GM and Chrysler bailout. By the way, Chrysler and GM and all these are doing well. Health care reform, it's passed. Financial reform law, passed. Led better fair pay so that women get the same pay as men. The first Latina justice on the Supreme Court. 3 women on the Supreme Court now. The most ever U.S. combat success in Iraq. Well, Iraq ended. That combat's ended there. The Dover Air Force Base is open to the media. No more covering up of people coming home. The remains of our soldiers, and stem cell funding is official. So you could argue that a lot of things got done, and yet in the old days, members of Congress would go home with a card of accomplishments and brag on them. Is that still happening, or have they given up on bragging on accomplishments, sir?
You know, this has been an incredibly active 2 years. You highlighted some of the achievements. Doesn't mean that everybody agrees or disagrees with every one of those. They're all controversial, but it'd be hard for anybody to say that this president didn't accomplish a lot, really on the historical scale in those 2 years, and a lot goes into the implementation phase over the next 2 years. It's hard to take credit during the ugly sausage-making process, and the Republicans made it, dirtied up the waters as much as possible. They made this, they extended the sausage-making, and now it's time to start taking credit moving forward.
You know, Richard Wolff's joining us right now. You know, he got credit for bringing the unemployment rate back down to where he started. I mean, you know, Morning in America, there was a morning before he came along, you know. I mean, how do you, this president seems to get a lot done, and if the unemployment rate goes down a couple points, is he going to be able to, at that point, get credit? Is that what we're waiting for? Well, if the jobless number goes down, then we look back and say, he's done a pretty good job. We won't say that till then. It
isn't just one measure, right? I mean, look, you saw him today. He looked like he was campaigning. He's got a story to tell about the auto bailout, which everyone said was a terrible waste of money.
We have an auto industry.
We have an auto industry. I had lunch with Paul Ryan in the middle of all this when he said, you know, just let the whole thing collapse. It doesn't matter. We need to let these things collapse. Well, how are you going to win back? By the way, that's the talk you get from the guy that just won the Senate race in Pennsylvania, too. Right. Well, how are you going to win back votes in the upper Midwest? Is by telling that kind of story for him. So he's got to go out there and talk about his record, and Democrats do too, because they have a story to tell now.
Well, that's the question, Congressman. If a moderate, you might even call it center-left politics. Let's just call it center-left politics, which in this case went along with Bush politics, which was we got to save our major industries. We can't be so libertarian or so free market that we let the key industries die. And why is that not a sellable argument? And why is the libertarians out there like Rand Paul and Toomey and those guys and Paul Ryan saying, let them die? How does that sell? Of course, because they didn't die, I guess.
Well, you know, a lot's up to the implementation. I mean, do they do it well or do they do it poorly? Frankly, I was skeptical about the involvement of the federal government in the automobile industry. It's not something that I supported initially, but it would be hard for anybody not to say that it was implemented well. Taxpayers will be made whole, and we kept a major American industry on its feet, and that's something that the president should take credit for.
Let's take a look at this new poll. It shows who should take policy lead in this country. Now, this is fairly damning. This is the New York Times, a Wall Street Journal poll. It found the majority of country wants Congress, Richard, to take the lead. 52% compared to 39% for the president. Now, that is a verdict against him.
Well, which part of Congress? The Democrats in the Senate or the Republicans in the House? I mean, well, we got a mixed verdict
right
here.
Now, the Democrats control both houses, at least through January, so it must mean the Democrats.
Right. You know, what's interesting is seeing independents and Democrats say they want to see compromise. They want to see these two sides working together. Republicans saying, no compromise, stick to your guns. I don't know that people have really gamed out what policies they want enacted here. Clearly, the economy is the most important thing, but Congress takes a lead. Who's the leader here?
Let's take a look at three things that are coming up right now, Congressman, before Christmas. Number one, the Bush tax cuts. What is your bet now as a legislator representing a district out in like Colorado? What is your bet? Will we get a tax cut for everybody, a continued tax cut for everybody under $250,000 a year? Will we get that for sure, or is that in jeopardy? Let's start with that question. Is that in jeopardy?
Yeah, I think the key thing that the president needs to accomplish and the Democrats need to accomplish is to extend those tax cuts for the middle class. We can't let taxes go up for people making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year on our watch. I think the president is exactly spot on with that. If we have to deal to get the votes to do that, so be it.
Would you give away the store to get it? Would you give complete extension of all Bush tax cuts in order to protect those of people under $250,000 a year?
Well, you know, it's incumbent on the Republicans to figure out how to pay for that. And so we're certainly, as the president's indicated, I would too want to see any proposals.
But you've just given away
money to do that.
But you've said you're determined to get the tax cuts for the people under 250, and the only way to do that is to get 60 votes in the Senate. You can't get that without Republican help. They do have the ransom possibility here. Don't they? They
do, and I think one key thing to make sure we do then is that it's a short-term extension for all the tax cuts. We just do it for a year, pay for it for a year, and make sure it's not permanent.
And let the Republicans come in next year and give the tax cuts to the rich. That's what they will do. Anyway, thank you, Congressman. It's great having you on. Happy Thanksgiving to you for joining us on Hardball. Richard Wolff, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving
to you,
A yeoman's
service, as always. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Name of the book.
Revival. Struggle for Survival.
It will reach the top.